Hello, thank you for joining me as we take this time to reflect on some teaching from this last weekend. We are in a series entitled 7 Letters to 7 Churches. We're looking at the 7 churches that Jesus spoke to in the book of Revelation, chapters 2 and 3. And we talked about the church in Smyrna, and in one word, it's suffering. Smyrna was a church that was suffering. The Christians there were enduring incredible amounts of persecution because of their faith in Christ. And in response to what was happening to them, Jesus had 2 words for them. He said, first of all, be courageous. Do not be afraid. Isn't it wonderful to know that regardless of the kind of suffering that you and I are going through, maybe it's physical suffering, maybe there's some relationships that have gone sideways and it's causing suffering, maybe there are some things at work that are just not right and there's suffering there. It could be overt persecution and tribulation because of our stand for Christ in some context. But regardless of the suffering that we are facing, Jesus tells us, do not fear. Why? Because He is Emmanuel. He is God who is with us. So we got to be, first of all, be courageous. And secondly, we need to be faithful. To the church in Smyrna, He said, be faithful unto death. Meaning that even if the suffering you're encountering costs you your physical life, continue in your path of obedience to Jesus. Be courageous and be faithful. Are you being faithful today? Are you being faithful in your walk with God? In the midst of that sickness that you are facing, in the midst of the suffering that you're undergoing, the emotional, the mental suffering, whatever kind of suffering that it might be, remain faithful to Jesus. Be courageous and be faithful. And I think there's 2 points or 2 places for application for us in this as we think about suffering. First of all, in the here and the now. Absolutely. In what we're going through, the sickness, the pain, the sorrow, the relationships, the work situation, the death of a loved one, whatever it might be that is the source of our suffering, we must be courageous and we must be faithful to Jesus. But don't forget that things are not going to get better for Christians. They're going to get worse. And what a prophetic message for us today. The reason that we need to be courageous and faithful today is so that we can build our courage and our faithfulness for tomorrow. Because whatever is coming down the pike, if God would have us be people who endure persecution and suffering because of our stand for Christ, then we want to do so and bring glory and honor to His name. And that's that future application. Your suffering matters. Your suffering has meaning in the eyes of God. And you need to remain faithful. You need to remain courageous because Jesus is with you in the midst of your suffering.